Trump administration is definitely shifting on how it approaches homelessness. It wants to get away from the policy approach called Housing First, which believes that the way to solve homelessness is to give people direct access to housing, give people housing, and that's the way to solve homelessness, right? And so he wants to shift it more to a place of accountability, drug treatment, places, job and workforce development. And so right now there's this battle that's happening because he's saying, hey, for all these people dependent on us for paying your housing, right? And when I'm saying people, I'm talking about like the actual affordable housing developers or the organizations that operate affordable housing developments that need the federal government to pay the rent so that they can operate and be in the black or make a profit off of their units. And the Trump administration has said, hey, we're still going to do a portion of that, but it's been, up to this point, it's been like 90-10. 90% housing, 10% other. They're trying to make it so it's a third. A third housing, a third treatment, and a third shelter. And under, when we had a more diversified approach, we had less homelessness in the country, and certainly in California. But one thing that's happened right now, of course, is all the housing people are looking at that saying, the pie that they have to split up is getting much smaller.
You're talking about them, but they get money to pay the rent for homeless people.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's how the affordable housing works. And so when you have like a for-profit or nonprofit that builds affordable housing, right? You can only charge the tenant so much. It's only like a few hundred dollars. Well, you can't operate one of these facilities on just a few $100s rent. And so what they do is they need the other portion of the rent, so the other $1,000, to come from someplace else. That's either going to come from like a housing voucher or like a Section 8 voucher.
Fed money.
Yeah. It's generally fed money.
People who can find
Sometimes
money.
that's right. But then they use that, and that's what builds in their profit, or that's what builds in. And so what's happened is some of that funding that goes to support that housing, those vouchers, or the funding that kind of covers the gap, is what is going away in some cases, or it's being reduced.
So do you think we'll see a spike of people back out on the streets because of that?
I think we're going to see more people of the streets for the next year, a year and a half, because of a combination of things. The biggest to me is that the loss of state funding. I think that the federal level is going through a shift, and anytime you go through a shift, I mean, they're turning a battleship, and it'll take some time. I personally don't want to see a complete band-aid pull off of these housing projects, because I don't want to see people go from housing to street. I think that's bad. But I do completely agree that we can't be going down the same path that has absolutely zero chance of working. And so I do support moving more to a treatment options, because I see that work in our program. I think we need a diversity of options, which Housing First does not. And I think they're trying to move to a diversity of options approach. In fact, last month I was in Denver, and this Housing First policy was actually developed by a guy out of New York, right? And his name's Philip.
Can you hold on to that thought?
Let's.
We hate to interrupt you.
No, yeah. I know, because you're on a roll.
Yeah,
I
you're on a
appreciate
roll.
it.
Yeah, I hate to ruin your roll, but I've got to take a break here.
Go for it.
Stick around. Okay, Matt Dildine is here. It's 10:30. Let's check the news on KMJ.
KMJ News now. Louisiana is trying to extradite a California doctor accused of mailing abortion pills to the state.
Remy Quito, who practices in the San Francisco Bay Area, faces a criminal charge of abortion by doctor could face up to 50 years in jail and fines. He's accused of mailing mifepristone and misoprostol in 2023 to a Louisiana woman who sought the medication through a European online telemedicine service. The woman took the pills in combination to end her pregnancy. Governor Jeff Landry writing on X, Louisiana has a zero tolerance policy for those who subvert our laws
numbers would be so much higher. And that really has to do with a lot of things. Our drug policy, right? The lack of you can't build a market rate housing basically anywhere in California anymore that's sustainable. The fact that you have so many people that are aging out of the foster care system that don't have places to go. There's a variety of factors, not just one. I harp on this all the time, but the drugs that we have now are cheaper, more dangerous and more addictive than we've ever had before, and more readily available. And those are not good. That's not a good combination. But one of the things that, to me, like one of the biggest issues in California, and this is not just limited to the homeless crisis, but I think you could look at any pocket where there's problems in California, and there's a lot of them, is it's not like there's one big, huge decision that caused us. It's a million little ones. And when I look at the barriers that we have to develop out of homelessness, a lot of it has to do with the fact that there's 100 things that you need to change. I think sometimes it's difficult for politicians to wrap their arms around something. Just yesterday, I had a legislative assistant for one of our elected leaders up in Sacramento in my office, and they're great, wonderful, and everything like that. But I was trying to propose to them a very simple solution that I think everybody would agree with, and yet it was still a long road. It'd be a long road just to pass this. I don't even think it's that controversial. But just because of the nature and the grind of doing anything in California, it's really hard attacking those a million little decisions which have led us to this point.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that's frustrating is, like, it seems like you always want the federal government to be involved because they always can come up with the money. Like, they can print it.
Yeah.
And it just seems like just keeps pouring in. That's why I asked, how much can we do here? And I feel like there's a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse here. Do you feel that way?
I don't. In California, yes. I don't think that there's as much in Fresno. Like, when I look at the providers that are in Fresno, I think they're led by many wonderful people. I might not always agree with them, but I think they're led by wonderful people.
You think?
Yeah. I think that there have been out-of-town groups that have come in that are not good. We've seen that recently. And if I was governor, I would definitely say there needs to be a cap on the amount of for-profit entities that participate or receive any level of homeless or affordable housing funding, because we can't afford for the profits to exit the homeless system, and that's a big part of what happens. And when you look at the governor's home key, which was his funding to convert hotel rooms, many for-profit entities were involved in that, and I don't think that's just something that should continue on the same scale. Wouldn't want to cut it out completely, but the homeless industrial complex is real.
Well, now, isn't Project Home Key losing money? Or no, am I confused on that? Well, I know here in Fresno, those hotels that we converted, I thought we weren't going to be able to have enough money to operate those anymore.
No, so what's happening here in Fresno is that the city used some one-time federal funding and some state funding to purchase these hotels largely during COVID. They actually got a special exception to be able to do that during COVID. But when they got the money, there was some strings attached to it that said they did have to convert into permanent housing at some point in time. And so those hotels that are currently being used as shelter are largely being converted eventually into permanent housing, which means they're going to be permanent housing, and they're going to help somebody in that permanent housing.
But then we won't have more housing coming in.
Or more shelter coming in. More shelter coming in. And that is where the problem is. And that's not the fault of the mayor or anything like that. I mean, they can only spend what they get. They can only spend what they can get. And so that's not criticism at all. In fact, I think the mayor and Supervisor Chavez, Supervisor Magsick, and others have actually done a great job is trying to do the best they can to get out in front of it. But there's only so much they can do. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to have money. You have to have money to operate, and they're not getting the same money that they once did.